Shalom and welcome. This episode will cover the question, what is Abraham and the ancient Israelites' Y DNA haplogroup? We will specifically speak from the perspective of the paternal descendants of Abraham, because I'm aware that other lineages and haplogroups could have been among the Israelites, but for this video our main goal is to look for the direct bloodline lineage of Abraham and his descendants. What will be their haplogroup? With that being said, what is a Y DNA haplogroup? A Y chromosome is passed down from father to son. According to livingdna.com, titled What Are Haplogroups? It reads, the paternal haplogroup relates to your Y chromosome, and since that is a sex determining chromosome for men, it is passed down from father to son. This is the perfect tool to use when trying to determine paternal lineages. Therefore, if we're looking for the Y DNA of Abraham and his descendants, we have to use haplogroups. Abraham's Y chromosome would have been passed down to his son Isaac, to his grandson Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel, and then the Israelites themselves, who paternally descend from Abraham and will carry his Y DNA haplogroup. With that being said, let's look at the first and one of the best candidates, in my opinion, for Abraham and the Israelites' Y DNA haplogroup. One candidate for the haplogroup of Abraham and the Israelites is E-Z830. One method we can use to determine the haplogroup of Abraham is by looking at subclades of the ancestors of Semitic populations like the Natufians, and look at people who claim descent from the 12 tribes of Israel. One subclade of haplogroup E that Abraham could have is a downstream of E-Z830. E-Z830 was found among the Natufian remains. According to the supplementary information in the paper titled The Genetic Structure of the World's First Farmers, it shows two E1b1b2 samples. According to the genetic analysis done on 6 Natufian remains from northern Israel, the Natufians carried the Y DNA haplogroup E-Z830, a somewhat upwind clade of E-M123, and therefore ancestral to it. The Natufians were one of the first settled peoples in the world and may have contributed to the domestication of certain crops and thus the advent of agriculture. The discovery of E-Z830 without other clades suggests an indigenous presence in Canaan and Israel that predates all other clades, which are not known to have existed in the region at that time, 10,000 years before present. E-M123 is thought to have a TMRCA, the most common recent ancestor, about 18,000 years ago, 8,000 years before the Natufians, possibly ancestral remains are from. Haplogroup E1b1b1b2 has been found in 75% of the N-gazelle population, along with 60% of PPNB populations, circa 8,800 through 6,500 BC. So haplogroup E was abundant among the Natufians, but specifically E-Z830 was abundant among the pre-pottery Neolithic populations as well as the Natufian populations. The reason why finding E-Z830 among the Natufians is important is because the Natufians are the ancestors of Semites. According to the book In Hot Pursuit of Language in Prehistory, it reads, this paper makes an additional inference since there is archaeological and physical anthropological reason to believe that the Natufians were related to modern Semitic-speaking peoples of the Levant. And according to Cambridge University, it reads, given the modern distribution of Semitic languages over the area in question, which belong to the larger Afro-Asiatic family, it seems appropriate to suggest that these first farmers of the Levant and their Mesolithic predecessors, including the Natufian culture, were speaking a Proto-Afro-Asiatic language. It may be that Proto-Semitic continued to develop within the Levant and Syria area, since both Ebalites and Akkadian, early Semitic languages, are there attested earlier, the former around 2400 BC. If Abraham descended from Natufians with E-Z830, then Abraham and the Israelites would be a downstream of E-Z830. Many Jewish and Arab populations carry E-Z830. A recently confirmed subclade of E-Z827 Z830 includes the confirmed subclades of E-M123, E-M293, and E-V42, and is a sibling clade to E-L19. Currently, the E-M35 phylogeny project recognizes 4 distinct clusters of Z830 carriers, 2 of which are exclusively Jewish in origin. The remaining 2 are significantly smaller and include scattered individuals in Germany, Spain, Latin America, Egypt, and Ethiopia. Cluster name E-PF1975, ISOGG nomenclature E1B1B1B2. Description: this cluster is now characterized by S&P PF1975. Formerly, this was known as cluster E-Z830-A Jewish cluster. Cluster name E-PF1952, ISOGG nomenclature E1B1B1B2. Description: this cluster is now characterized by S&P PF1952. Formerly, this is known as cluster E-Z830-B Jewish cluster. Cluster name E-Z830-C, ISOGG nomenclature E1B1B1B2. Name cluster E-Z830, ISOGG nomenclature E1B1B1B2. What's interesting about this subclade of haplogroup E is that famous Jews such as Albert Einstein carried it. According to iGena, titled The DNA Profile of Albert Einstein, it reads, why DNA analysis with various members of Albert Einstein's paternal lineage were able to determine his haplogroup. The result also confirmed his Jewish ancestry. Albert Einstein belonged to haplogroup E, subgroup E-PF1952 in his paternal lineage. The acclaimed theoretical physicist Albert Einstein is presumed to have belonged to Y haplogroup E-Z830, based on the results from a patrilineal descendant of Naphtali Hasher Einstein. Albert Einstein's great-grandfather. Approximately 20% of Ashkenazi Jews belong to E1B1B. Here are a few interesting Jewish clusters within E-Z830 according to JewishDNA.net. This branch has 2 ancestors, AB-008 and AB-009. This distance between the 2 is not yet determined. Most likely, the shared ancestor of the 2 lived in the Ashkenazi or Sephardic countries. This branch has 3 lines, England, Italy, Switzerland, and is estimated by Henlea at 2,100 years before present. It is likely this line went from the Levant to Iberia to the 2 Ashkenazi branches. This branch is in the E1B-old group of Jewish branches. This branch is a member of the Ashkenazi branches. This branch has some matches that might be related after the start of Judaism. Looking at one more interesting subclade within E-Z830 that's part of the Jewish cluster from JewishDNA.net, it reads, this group is a Ashkenazi group that has no close connection. The faraway connection are more than 3,000 years before present, possibly from the Middle East, where other Z830 groups are probably originating. This branch is in the E1b old group of Jewish branches. This branch is a member of the Ashkenazi branches. E-Z830 is also quite common among Arabian populations as well. If you type in E-Z830 on Wi-Fi.com, you will see a very high percentage of this subclade within the Arabian Peninsula. Also, if you type in Y heat map E-Z830, you'll still see a very high percentage within the Arabian Peninsula and throughout the Mediterranean and other parts of the Middle East, even in Africa. And the same thing occurs if you type in E-Z830 into S&P tracker. You'll see very high distribution within the Arabian Peninsula and other parts of the Middle East, as well as the Mediterranean and even Europe. And the split seems to occur within the Levant, with branches going south into the Middle East and Arabia and branches going north into Europe. With all of that being said, Abraham and the Israelites could be a downstream of E-Z830.